Hey guys, and welcome to our UK Global Talent podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. And today we have Anton, who applied for Global Talent visa with TechNation, but he has an extremely interesting case and actually very unusual one. So we definitely want to listen to that one. And hello, Anton, and welcome.
Hi, Elizaveta. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to talk about your story and just to give you a little teaser of what to expect. Initially, when we talked with Anton, we actually didn't think he has a chance to apply. Why? Because TechNation wants product-led businesses on your CV when you apply for UK Global Talent Visa. It's probably the first thing that you read on their guidelines. And Anton haven't worked for product-led companies as such. His background is consulting, public services, and metals industry. So, Anton, tell me a little bit about your background and how did you decide to apply for the UK Global Talent Visa?
Yeah, sure. So originally, I'm a physicist, and I graduated as a physicist, wanted to be a scientist. But at some point, I decided that there's a trend for a data science and data, so I ended up being a data scientist. So due to the salaries, of course, and all other things. So I had my first serious relationships and I needed some money, and that's how my career started, actually.
Yeah, very good motivation. Works every time.
And started to work in consulting. So for around a year, I worked as an intern at McKinsey, and then I switched more to working with data. So overall, I have around 10 years of experience working with data. Half of them is for public services. So I was developing different data solutions, so including BI solutions as example. It's really funny working with terabytes of data daily. So I ended up building a data engineering team for up to 15 people. At some point, I felt that working within public services is just a bit overwhelming because people are just complaining about services. And if you build something really, even if you build something really good, and this thing, so it was a bit demotivating actually. And I decided to move to metals and mining sector. So for the reason that there was a chance around 6 years actually ago, there was a chance of developing from scratch AI team. So building real AI project, because in public services, we've tried to implement some AI machine learning stuff, but it ended up being just prototypes. On one side, you have a lot of data, for example, healthcare data, yes, of many citizens, but it's actually hard to implement to prove that it could work and accelerate the things. And on the other side, there was a chance to build from scratch a team in metals and mining, automating production. So huge challenge, enterprise company. So for me, it's interesting to disrupt something.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, I actually wanted to build a startup at some point, but back then we already had a daughter. So for me, it was strategically just not a safe option. And I just moved to be on enterprise level, so more safe, but kind of
Stable salary.
so trying to find the best balance. And so I built a team now from the ground up to around 40 people, 30, 40 people. We decided to move to Europe. Actually, we decided to move. So when I was in McKinsey, I was interviewing Google at Poland. I remember that. So Wrocław, and we decided to stay in Russia. And 2 years ago, we decided to move. So there was an understanding that we need to move now or we will stay forever. So we just needed to decide to do this. And I was thinking which country we should move to. So we wanted to move to Europe only. And so I've been thinking, so I understood that we need to choose one country. So I remember the phrase from McKinsey from one of our partners, so focus like a laser.
Very good tip, definitely.
Yes, and so we ended up, if you want to do something good, you need to focus on one thing. You need to decide. It can be maybe not the best decision, but it's a decision. Having a decision, I think, is better than not to have it. And so we decided to go with the UK, and because I'd been studying there for 3 months and I knew nothing about taxes back then, and still I don't regret about my decision. So we decided to move to to the UK, and I just tried to understood what options are there. So I can be
Skilled worker
just
visa.
worker visa. So I studied what could be the option, and actually in other countries too, what could be the options.
Mm-hmm.
And so the main reason I decided to move to the UK is because I just was born in big city in Moscow, so I've been growing up in Moscow, and all I wanted is just to be in the same city, but more international. And that's why I wanted to move not in the UK, but in London, actually, because the UK is really different.
They say London is not England, right? So multinational. I remember when I was studying very long time ago in 2008. My goodness me, don't count the years. We had an auditorium of I think 30 students, and we literally had one British guy there in the auditorium. It's so international, and if you sit on the tube, you see so many nationalities, so many languages, and it's really like you feel you belong in a sense. Then even though it's a big city, but because there's so many different nationalities, you don't feel so lonely, and you feel you belong, and you're not judged. So London is a great place to be for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And one more thing I would say for our kids. So we've been thinking about education, schools, and we felt that just giving the education to our kids in the international schools, so where there are people from any countries. So it's so important, I think, just to develop a critical reasoning, just to understand how different nationalities are,
Cultures,
cultures. So what could be maybe just so each country has its own traditions. So what could be traditions?
yeah.
This
Also
is a
good
perfect.
later on for work, right? When you work in multicultural environment, it's important to understand all those different parts. So
Yeah.
you came to us, you were like, you did the assessment test, you had quite high score. By the way, guys, if you want to know your chances, complete our assessment test. We've been building it for a long time. It's pretty good. And it kind of, obviously, you're talking about data science, you're talking about AI. It kind of fits, but Tech Nation says a product like company, we don't care. And I know from my experience as well that FMCG companies, consulting companies, even normal banks, investment banks, they just hate it. They always say, well, this is not technology advancing, this is not technology. But there's a little sentence that says an exception could be if you are a niche expert that works for non-product led company and you can show your niche unique expertise. And that's how we were like, okay, then let's go. And that's how we started to build in your case. And what was interesting as well along the way, metals and mining industry as such as well, right? Like you said, now AI seems to be everywhere, but a lot of very traditional industries are lacking quite behind. And I think in your case, what worked really well was looking at the data in terms of the UK and how developed the sector is generally in terms of AI and saying, look, I'm going to come in and you will potentially, obviously we can never know, but your potential is to impact that industry, heavy industries and kind of traditional industries with implementation of AI, considering you worked on such a large scale, your employer is so big. And I think this was the main point, that would be used everywhere. It's important when you build this kind of case. So it is possible. We also had a marketing girl from FMCG company, but you always have to look at this unique skill set. So you working with a lot of data, terabytes of data, like you said, with and I think metals and mining industry has its own way of doing things across the world, and like knowing how that works and how much it impacts as well the UK, considering you have BP there, so huge as well. So it was interesting. Was there anything for you when we were building the documents that generally was surprising, or something you didn't know, or something that found difficult?
I think a lot of things. So when I wasn't even thinking to just apply by myself actually, for the reason that so there are several reasons. First reason was that I just hate writing. So just literally.
We
So
love writing. That's why we do
yeah.
it.
And I understand that even though the ChatGPT, there was a release of ChatGPT in November
Mhm.
2022, so even having that in mind. So for me, it was really hard and taking into account my experience of public services, so some politics potentially, and so enterprise company. So for me, it was really hard to collect all the story of myself, and so now it's better. But for me, it was hard to sell myself. So just see myself
as a case.
as a kid, yes, no, not as a human. So for me, and so you helped me really a lot, just to visualize this case.
Mm-hmm.
So just because sometimes I can tell too much maybe of truth on one things and on
Yeah, yeah,
another.
yeah.
So trying to just feel this story, for me, it's really, you helped a lot. It was a bit hard to collect all the achievements. So
And separate them into criteria as well, because you had quite a lot, but we also wanted to have like very tangible things that would be understood well. And I think this is where the problem is also with very technical people like yourself. I sometimes have clients who are like building some solution and they send me like 70,000 screenshots of GitHub and like codes and everything, and you obviously don't want to overwhelm the person who will be reviewing your visa to give them so many details, but you have to give enough details to convince them that you actually did things and you changed something. So we call it case assembly. I think it's an interesting visual process for me as well. Like, I see the person and I see all these little bits, and it has to come into like 15 document circle in me that works with every way. And we need to also understand that the technician caseworker, they might not know your industry that well. You assume that they do, but they cannot know all the industries and every details of every industry. So it has to be a good balance between detail and actually something to be able to understand.
yeah, for sure. So you helped me a lot with this creating a story. So I'm
Did you
thankful.
did you believe you will actually get it? Honestly?
So I wasn't sure really, but yeah, was the thing that so we had a chat with the people who applied by themselves
Mm-hmm.
mostly, yes. And so usually endorsement for my topic, for AI topic. So people received endorsement maybe in 1 week or in 10 days. I was waiting for 1.5 months probably.
That you were waiting the full time, yeah, almost the full time that was.
And
Yeah.
this was really nervous. And at the same time, a really niche case. So
It was not 100% sure. We were also not 100% sure. I think we had the legal part on our side and the wording and how they were putting it. But do you
yeah.
remember? Do you remember when you found out that you got endorsed? Do you remember where you were? What was it?
Yeah, I was in Turkey, actually, in
Mhm.
Istanbul. I was playing tennis. I was playing tennis. It was just like I took a lunch break to play some sport. So one more thing that's happened. So I've lost around 35 kilograms for 2 years. It was just a complete transformation. I decided to move. So
Let
decided
go of
to
all the luggage, all the everything you were holding.
all
Very
the
good.
things all together. So I was playing tennis, and when I just ended to play, I saw an email from
Yeah, you're
you, I
probably
think,
good.
or from Ilya
Yeah,
probably,
yeah, yeah.
and I was really happy, and I decided just for 1 hour I was listening to my favorite music track, and
Oh,
was happy to listen it, yeah, to celebrate.
so that was stage one. Like I said, it's just an email when they tell you you've been endorsed or not, and they give you a little reference number. And then obviously starts the whole bit with stage two visa. And I think what's important for people to understand, and that's what I ask on every single call, is the health surcharge fee. Obviously, you still did it when it was a bit lower, but this year they raised it even further. And you're a family of four, that is another big thing. So anytime we sometimes have families of five, and when you calculate how many people and for how many years you get the visa, it just becomes absolutely enormous amount of money that you need to have. Were you like preparing for it and calculating? How was it for you?
So I think we were ready for the second
Mm.
part, so before applying. So it was kind of so when there's understood that there's a price of it's kind of, so I see it as a tax mostly because here healthcare system. So
Doesn't exist.
I traveled to Georgia actually to just maybe to visit dentists
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
maybe other medicine. But so we prepared it in advance, and we decided to pay for. So I was endorsed for talent, and we decided to pay for 3 years, and then so when I will be ready for ILR. So
Mhm.
I think it's 1.5 year or so. Then we will extend visa for my wife and kids.
Mhm.
And so we just were budgeting beforehand.
And okay, you applied. How long did it take the stage 2 for you?
So I think around 2 months. But we had a spreadsheet, so Google spreadsheet with the people who've applied for it, and so medium term was around 30 working days or so. So it was less nervous, to be honest. And I have no criminal records, fortunately.
That's what we always say. We just say, what are the chances of not getting stage 2 visa? And honestly, if you don't have a criminal record and you have the endorsement, the chances of not getting this visa is zero. Honestly, you will get the visa.
I heard from some people who had some problems maybe with the citizenship, so different citizenships and all other things. So eventually, so they got through the stage 2 too. So I didn't hear of any bad cases actually from my experience.
And tell me, in terms of your January relocation, I spoke with a previous episode was with Emil, and he's moving alone. He has a friend there that he knows. How is it to move to the UK with a family, with obviously kids, because you get so much logistics in, not just finding the property where you're going to live, but also I think it's kindergarten and school for you was at the same time. Well, both kindergarten. How was it? Like, it must be so hard.
Yes, it is hard, but it's easier if you decide. So the main goal, why you want to move. So for us, it's just having citizenship potentially. So in the current economy and current political situation, and just having international atmosphere. Yes, so not being isolated. So these are, I think, the main factors. Of course, there are downsides if you move to any country, but for us, so we've been moving 2 times. So for some time, we've been living in Turkey. So moving with 2 kids is crazy. So no surprises, I think. But so we just before we moved to the UK. So I think very important to understand where you want to be settled. So in terms of area, even so we decided, so for us the school is the most important thing actually. And we just chosen some schools we want to be in. So it was more of a state school. So we just found the state school. We asked, so there's an agency. So actually, I have, so when I moved, I think I had maybe around 20 friends, at least that I know are in London. So I really, in terms of just communication, so I speak with a lot of people. So for me, it's easier to find a common language. So my friend suggested just some people to help to find the flat. So we found the flats. We found a school. So there was a hard process of applying to the state school, getting a place. So the distance to the school is really hard part. And when we solved that, so it was the hardest part. We found the flat. So it's the second hardest part. So it's the first part actually find the flat. The second find the school.
But even with a flat, right? When you don't have the UK income, it is so hard to find a landlord who would be interested because you get the referencing in, and if the referencing fails, the landlord doesn't have the insurance. So it's a whole complicated thing there just with the property.
And one more thing, so you need to prepare clean capital. So you before moving to the UK, you need to be sure you have enough money
How
to
much
live.
money do you think? What would you say you have?
I think so. At least you need to to have so ideally for 2 years of living. So you can look. So there's a website now, Numbeo.
I also recommend
I
it.
think it works really well. So depending on the city
Mm-hmm.
where you want to live, and I would say I would be pessimistic. So take maximum of all the things. Ideally, you would need to have maybe 1 year, yeah,
Yeah.
of savings. So taking into account how long it can take to just interview, depending on the case. But if you're moving with the global talent and you don't have a job in the UK, it can take just from half a year. Or
Sure, it's not guaranteed.
and in my case, for example, it's a really niche. So really niche topic. So mining, metals and mining. And here in the UK, so from what I saw actually, so for example, people want to see experts from the industry they want to work in. And so it really depends on the case, actually.
Tell me, so you had the upfront costs were the health surcharge. Did they ask you for the property also upfront payment for a couple of months? How was it?
So we paid for 6 months of rent, and this is a good case from what I heard. So some agencies ask for 1 year payment, and I had a really meeting, so offline meeting with landlord. I haven't heard other people had, so I met a landlord before they went to watch Wimbledon matches. So it was funny, but I had a meeting. In my case, it's good because I'm just usually, so when people see me, they are more calm that everything will be good.
Yeah.
We just paid for 6 months and then just paying for the month after that. But if you don't have UK income, so if you live here and you don't have UK income and decide to move to another flat, you will have the same checks.
It's a bit difficult. How is life treating you now in the UK? How long you've been in?
So 1.5 year. I really like it. So I haven't been thinking of taxes before. Now just I'm thinking of the ways to just decrease it legally. But everyone does it. So everyone speaks about it. So what ways you can do it. But I think it's for me it's another stage of maturity. You're maybe responsible for yourself, for your taxes. You understand how to calculate it, but you are more free on other side. So in terms of things, in terms of taxes, so prices are high too for many things, for flats too. But as I said, we as a family enjoy the international atmosphere. So a school is a good way of socializing. So we speak with parents a lot. We have a play dates with other kids. So we usually invited for the birthday parties. So many birthday parties. Last weekend we have two actually. One was son's friend celebration, and one was daughters. So I think there is a lot of socializing things, and we have a chat of people who obtained a global talent visa from Russia. So there is a Slack channel with global talent visa holders from Tech Nation. So actually, there are really more events than compared to the times when I was in Moscow. So and really busy, and I need to filter the events. So it's first time I need to filter. When I was in Turkey, there wasn't so many events.
On a side note, actually, after moving to the UK, we loved working with Anton, and actually, EP Advisory hired Anton as our AI advisor. So, guys, if you're any of you entrepreneurs listening to it, Anton is absolutely great AI advisor, and he helped us to integrate AI into our services and actually build a roadmap for our product. So, we are very, very happy with that. So if you need any, and that's the beauty of Global Talent Visa. You are not attached to your employer. You can do consulting. You can do advisory. You can set up your own company, several companies, practically do anything you want. And it's not just against the skilled worker visa. I think it's against the startup visa, an innovative visa, any other visa that you have. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think Anton is a very talented advisor actually, because he has this, you have this good mix of technical skills but also quite strong business acumen, so you can see how things are done. And I think that's why in public services for you it probably wasn't so interesting and so motivating to stay. But overall you have this commercial mindset, but at the same time quite great tech awareness, and obviously being an AI expert and keeping up to date. I always felt like you were on top of all the news that were happening in AI world when we were working together. So guys, reach out to Anton via LinkedIn. I'll leave his link in the description. And if you need any product built, it's not just metals and mining. We are HR tech, so for us it was absolutely
Thanks a lot, Santa. Thanks a lot for good recommendations. Happy to. Thank you. And on my side, I'm really trying to focus at business first, business problems first, solving business problems, and then just trying to understand how can we get value from applying AI, because there's a lot of hype now. Maybe from maybe a year ago, but still, I think for some time there still will be hype, and then the solutions.
No, but I think I can. Some people are scared of it, and some people say that, oh, you're killing my job. But to be honest, it's just allowing you to not do your boring, repetitive things that you don't need to do, and actually focus on strategy or creative work. And I find it absolutely brilliant. I think you cannot overutilize AI. If it works for you and it helps your day-to-day
Yeah.
job, then you should definitely
Sure,
do
and
that.
my estimation is that you increase your productivity by around 20%. So it just I've heard
Exactly.
there could be different things, so it's really hard to measure all of this, but in different time in life, you just can use it. So, for example, on the weekends, I just we've been thinking of maybe some holidays, and I wrote what is the budget for holiday for a family in Europe, in
Where
France,
to
in
go and
Paris, for
everything.
example, and you can understand just in 2 seconds and make a decision. So,
Absolutely.
just one example.
But we use it also all the time, even like meal prep for recipes. I started using it. If you like, I don't know, you're in Netherlands and you drove somewhere and you want to park and you don't speak Dutch. Basically take a photo of the description of the parking rules because you don't understand them. In the past I would translate them with a translator, but now you're like, hey ChatGPT, can you tell me if I can park here today, actually right now? And there's so many cool uses that actually really help you, but business wise as well. Last thing that we always ask, is there anything that you would like to tell people who are preparing now very nervously for their global talent application, or maybe generally about living in the UK or moving to the UK?
I think the first thing is just so at least what worked in my case and in maybe some other use cases. I know that many people obtain a visa and then travel to the UK and then maybe going back actually. So and I would suggest maybe speak with some people at least. So what's it about living in the UK, living maybe not in other countries? For the UK, with the people in the UK, where you want to live. So just trying to understand all upsides and downsides, and keeping in mind why you're moving is really important. And I think it's a backbone just of all other things that can happen in the life. So at least from what I know, there's no country where there is a perfect life, at least now.
For
So
sure.
it will be different upsides and downsides. And actually, when you pay all the surcharges, yeah, so IHS and all other things, you need to
Yeah.
understand that the life only begins, and you need to continue to pay all the stuff. So this is my advice. So you
Sure.
should understand it. Very good. So this would be my main one.
Sure, for sure. It's very expensive, and I think a lot of people underestimate it. And generally, the cost of living in the UK, especially in London, is very high. But the salary level, I wouldn't say that it is great. Netherlands, you can earn more money. Even in Germany, you can earn more money. I remember very specifically, we had a case of a marketing manager looking for a job, and she was in Asia, and she wanted to move. I was choosing between the UK and Germany. She actually got two job offers as a marketing manager. One was for the UK, and the salary was £40,000 gross per annum, and one in Munich in Germany, and it was €95,000. The difference was so much. It's obviously an exceptional case. It's not usually like this, but I would say depending on the area where you live. But UK has so many different other great parts of it, and London is a beautiful city in terms of opportunities, in terms of people. I'm sure Anton, you would confirm. I don't think there is any other. Maybe New York, but London is also so still European cozy city. But you have absolutely brilliant minds, great opportunities. You have so many things going on. Kids, you think big city, but there's literally. I think someone told me in London, you decide to learn something like an instrument or dance or whatever, like you want to learn, you definitely will find someone who's teaching that. And I think it's also very diverse and very cultural rich. Maybe not the whole life, but for a period of time, definitely.
Sure. So we're not yet decided. So maybe about 5, 10 years strategy. Yeah, but for sure, this is a really great experience. It's for us. Yes, many opportunities, and really you can meet people on the streets. Yeah, it's shocking how it's easy to just see someone. Yeah. For example,
Yeah.
do you know Westfield around
Yes,
the
sir, yeah.
White
Yeah.
City? So one of my friends, so they went to one movie with a Dwayne Rock Johnson, and when they've been sitting, all actors and actresses, so they come out there, and no one knew that, just
Cool.
15 minutes from me, 20 minutes. Yeah, no one that is right.
I know. No, it's a very vibrant culturally, like I said, and even events and everything cities. So beautiful time. Okay, Anton, so much for your time. If you have any questions for Anton or about visa, let me know in the comments. And until next time, thank you, Anton.
Thanks for the invitation.